Well, good afternoon and welcome. Another important topic in soil macromorphology. It is soil texture. So soil texture, students. So as usual, going with the formality with this topic, it is a relative proportion of various soil separates of soil material. Just we have just necessary. It's a soil is you have mentioned a particular name of the separates, but I'm keeping some general terminal soil separates. So naturally there are 12 texture classes are there, which you know all those things, and mostly for soil purpose, hardly we use USDA scales, and also we use IEEE scale also, but mostly we use both the scales. And also students, for every soil scientist, generally in a field, we use one peculiar method, field method. You know, we will rub the sample between the thumb and fingers, then we will develop some idea regarding the texture. This should have a very strong experience for a soil scientist or a pedologist. Should have a strong experience, then only he can determine the soil texture of that particular area, students. And these are the scale, students. USDA, UN, the United Nations, and this ASM is this one traffic control area of America. And this is some guide of texture classification, students, of fine earth classification, which are less than 2 mm. And but there is a classification of 2 mm. You know what is that classification which is less than 2 mm? So all this sand, gravel, sand, and sand also you can see different classes, silt. These are the scales. Mostly in India we use USDA and that International Union of Soil Science. That is previously it is called International Society of Soil Science, and we use these type of scales, students. And this is the textural diagram. You know all this. If you count this all these diagrams, you will get 12 classes. Generally, while you are going for international prepared method of analysis, you should use this triangle for classification. You know, by calculating percentage of silt, percentage of clay, and we will draw the straight lines where the three lines are intersect. The soil comes into that particular zone only. That is that particular soil category. That is called based on that calculation only, we will determine the particular soil texture. This is soil texture, and also so now this is. So this is a normal textural triangle diagram. Usually everyone knows. And also, students, this is what the major class today. This is the major concept which I usually prefer. This is the major importance of this today's class. Rock fragments, students. Generally, we always bother about the weathered product of sand, silt, and clay. But rock fragments prefer the textural names. Its particular larger components are more than 2 mm coarse, composed of around 15% of the volume. So whenever take a whenever you take a earth soil sample, it contains 15% of the volume of bulk soil material. So this rock fragment modifier means prefers that name. This name. So gravel means gravelly. That is called the modifier. Prefers the textural name. If the condition of this gravels big, that is if it that which is more than 2 mm, which composes we will have a different classes. So class of based on the class of rock fragments present in the soil sample, this is what the classification is. So class of rock fragments, modifiers means the names of round and angular particles of larger. So these are the round and angular. You know, actually students, gravel, this is nothing but the stone. Gravel means generally for house construction we use one type of stone, that is called the gravel. Cobble means cobble. I don't know what is the vernacular name of other languages, but in Telugu we call it as gulakaralu. Cobble means we call as Gulkarallu in Telugu. I don't know other what the in Hindi. I don't know what the name in Hindi. I will show the images of all these things. So gravel, cobble, and stone. Based on the size of these fragments, rock fragments, we have another classification. So this guide texture classification of fine earth is less than 2 mm. This line indicates for this. So in gravel, if the condition is like this, 2 to 75 mm, that type is called modifier name is called gravelly. And cobble means 75 to 250 mm, that is called cobbly. And stones is almost 250 to 600 millimeters, it's called stony. And boulders means more than 600 millimeters, so boulder. So
अपने
like
जाए
this,
तो छोड़ी ना ना
so like this, because the gravelly, cobble, stone, and boulders, we have three different types of rock fragment classifications. This is completely based on what, students? Based on modifiers of round and angular particle largeness. So based on the roundness and angular particle larger than the 2 mm in the particular diameter. So this is the classification. So gravel, this is the type of gravel everyone knows. This is a gravel. Almost I show this is the size and this is the modifier name. The same thing is stable is repeated here. Cobble, everyone knows this, students. I don't know what you call in your lot. The very soft will be there. Very rounding edges will be there. But here you can see some angular edges will be there. But here you can see soft and roundy things. Uh, I don't know what in other language called. Mr. Rai, can you say what is called in Hindi? हिंदी में कैसे क्या बोले इसमें इस पत्थर को?
I also don't know, sir. कोबल को कोबल ही बोलते हैं, I think.
नहीं, इसमें राउंड है ना, थोड़ा थोड़ा राउंड एंड सॉफ्ट है. Mostly you can see in beaches,
Yes, sir.
some
वो
nearby river.
yes, sir.
Okay, you find out and inform to us. Okay.
It seems like a जो in childhood we play कंचे,
Yeah, inside
something like that.
once we hit with
Yes.
this any other head, he will finish off. Anyhow, this is a cobble. Cobble size. Based on this, we have some classification, students and stone. This is a common thing. Stones regularly we will see the stones. Everyone knows 250 to 600 millimeters. It's with the modifier name is stony. And boulders means big stones, big rocks. No, big bulldozers. Sometimes those are called the boundary. So this is one type of classification, students, in texture. So why, sir, why we have to read all those things? We are soil scientists and that too we are agriculture students. What is the need? Yes, there is a need. Combination of these cobble and this gravel with our regular soil like silt, loam, all those things. Then there will be a different texture class will come. That is what we are reading. That is what we are crossing. We are reading beyond the soil texture, what we have read in our MSc and BSc. So generally, students, so keep aside, keep this that part aside. Now let's come to see this, especially in soil taxonomy, students. Family particles. There is a group, you have read in soil taxonomy, family. For keeping family comprising, we have to use one different triangle. We have to use a different triangle. That triangle is this one. See, this is for using soil taxonomy, particularly for classifying the what is this? Classifying the family. In soil taxonomy, we have to use this, but not for profile. For profiling, we have to use this one. This one. Naturally, in international pipette method, that Robinson pipette method, we use this triangle. But family, for classifying family, we should use this triangle. Very quite different. And also, students, in this condition, especially in this taxonomical classification family conditions, sand will be around 0.05 to 0.1. Is treated as a very fine sand. That is treated as silt for the family groupings. There is a separate thing. If you're going for any taxonomic classification of particular soils or particular area things, we will use this type of triangle. If you want to group any soils in a family, then we should use this triangle. There should be clay laid is a very fine loamy, and the star is there na. This explanation here is. So very fine sand means, students, it is treated as 0.5 degree, is treated silt for the family grouping. Fine loamy silt. Coarse fragments are considered equivalent to the coarse sand. So coarse fragments are completely considered as a coarse fragments and boundary between the silt and silty class. So this is for particularly for the soil taxonomy classification of family group. Up to family, we have to use this type of textural diagram. So this is regarding with this. And also, students, and there is another thing. So previously we have seen one type of classification, the one type of rock classifications based on rounding, based on angular, based on their roundness, all those things. And there is another type of classification of rocks are there. What is that? Based on the length and longest altitude. So based on the length, how much length is there? Just previous in last class we have discussed about the color. Based on the length of the color, breadth of the color, we have done for one, we have gone for one classification of color. Same thing was happening in here also. So based on the length and longest axis of used, we have got another type of particle classification, that is called the channers. I've seen, I've tried for the image to get the image of this, but unable to find the proper image. It's almost the longitude axis will be around 2 to 150 millimeter. Modifier name is just we are giving the name, that is called a channery. And flagstones around 50 to 380 mm, and stones naturally will be around 380 to 600 based on axis, students. Here you can see only axis, but this one is completely based on the angle of roundness, angle, all these things. We have discussing all these things. Minutes, right? So So this is regard. So, but here based on the axis, longest axis length, based on the length and axis, we have got this classification: Churner, Blackstone, stone boulder. So more than 600 boulders are very common, but here also both are same. Boulders are strong. Even stone also we are getting. Stone was somewhat different, 380 to 600 diameters. But Blackstone is 50 to 380, and Churners is 2 to 150 millimeters. So these are modified names. While we are giving names for particular soil, we'll do. Now this is the thing, students. Why we have read all those stones, sir? What is the need of those stones? Those stones have nothing to do with our agriculture practice. But this is here. This is the explanation for that. So finite fraction, students. So generally, if the texture is a loam and soil material contain between 15 to 35% of volume of rock fragment, especially gravel, and gravel is dominated. That rock fragment is dominated with the gravel and dominated size fraction. Then the texture class comes under what? Gravelly loam. This is why we are giving the loam. No, nowhere in your BSc or MSc career you may not heard this type of classification. Generally, if there is a fragments of gravel, then we can see that gravelly loam. At the same time, students, the soil contain around 35 to 60% of gravel, then we see it's very gravelly loam. If it is condition was 60 to 90, the condition is called extremely gravelly loam. This is what, student, the same conversion will be applicable for the other conditions. So if instead of gravel we can give churnary loam, churnary sandy loam, very flaggy clay loam, like this. Based on those particular clay fractions we will mix here. So we will get the different fractions of texture classes. So based on this also we will classify. And also, students, mostly soil metal can 90% rock fragment, then the texture class is named dominated by the rock fragments. As for example, the cobbles, especially cobbles were dominant, then we'll give the cobble names only. All class were determined by mostly quantity of rock fragments only, students. This type of classification is completely given based on the how much quantity of rock fragments which we have read in the previous slides. Completely based on that slides only we'll go for rock fragments. And rock fragment size modifier is completely based on the largest dominant fragment size. Generally, which fragment size was dominant? If it's a cobble, means cobble. If it's completely sand, clay size, and we can see some sort of loamy, say for example, clay, say example loamy soils, and you can see some cobbles or more heavy. Then we can say cobble, loamy, like that. We can give one type of classifications. Mostly this type of classification we can go. And another important thing, students, this is all regarding this type of classification. Also, students, we can see another type of classification of texture is, you can, another type of soils we can see based on the organic matter. Based on organic matter also we will go for this type of classification. Especially, students, if any soil scientist or any pedologist encounter the histos also where the organic matter content was very high, you should use this type of classification. What those classification? Generally, you have heard all these things: peat, muck peat. Have you heard all these things? These names: peat, muck peat. No,
Yes,
I
sir,
hope.
inorganic soil.
Yeah. What is the meaning of peat? Peat का मतलब क्या है?
Yes, sir.
What is the meaning of peat?
Hello.
Yeah, peat का मतलब क्या है? What is the meaning of peat?
partially
इसलिए
decomposed
गड्ढा होता है
organic material.
Yeah, it is partially decomposed. I think our Mr. Singh, I'm forgetting his name. Your Benares friend is saying something. Please say. बोलिए. What's up? I forgot your name.
So my name is Deepak Prajapati.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyhow, coming to that, organic soil material sometimes used for the textural classification, mostly based on degree of organic matter decompositions. We use organic matter organic matter for the classification of texture. Based on the organic matter decomposition. Mostly peat soils. Organic matter relatively undecomposed. Mostly you can see very undecomposed. You can see all type of real. You can by with the naked eye you can see this particular organic matter. Especially if there is a plant material, you can easily identify. If there is any animal residues, definitely you can see there is called the peat soils. And muck soils are highly decomposed, having very few plant tissue fiber. You can see very few plant tissue fiber you can observe in muck soils. Muck soils are very highly decomposed. You can see this is quite opposite to the peat. it was not decomposed, but it was highly decomposed. And very few plant fibers you can observe in mud. Plant fibers very rarely you can identify. But muck peat, it's somewhat intermediate between these two, intermediate between these two. And also, students, there are many things to estimate the undecomposed tissue or rubber tissue. Undecomposed tissue sometimes may call as undecomposed rubber tissue also. Contain wet samples of rubbed with the hands and careful exam to determine the undecomposed tissue. So whenever you went to for examining of a soil, organic soils, if you take your hand and if you rub with your hand, so what you will find out, you can see some sort of you can feel that organic residues or plant residues. You can see sometimes you can see that fiber content in the plant fiber content you can see based on this also peat soils, muck soils, and muck peat soils. All this type of classification also we can easily see in the pedagogical classifications. Why this is very important? Now, I think while reading this elementary all these concepts, it is somewhat you will find out what is the need of reading all these things. But when you become after when you get the PhD and you're suddenly you promoted as a pedagogist, definitely you should all use all these terminologies: cobbles, channel, flagstone, stones, all those things. And this one also is very important whenever you. So this is regarding the texture. So in this class, as I said, I didn't cover the very basic fundamental, that what is a sand, what is a silt. It's not fair to discuss all those things. Anyhow, students, it's a very small class. Thank you very much for your cooperation. And in tomorrow we will discuss about the other characters called structure, consistency, and porosity, etc., etc. We'll read many things. Tomorrow class will be very interesting, and we have a very lengthy class tomorrow. Lengthy means, but very interesting, students. Thank you, students. Thank you.